Hey everyone, it's Mace1370. Today we are going to do an RTA showcase for REM. Before we get into it though, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Also, please see the video description below for a link to my Discord. As an additional aside, my alt guild Corgi Squad is still recruiting. We could always use new members, so if you're interested in that, you can also check out the Discord. Okay, so REM is our new limited warrior. She is pretty sweet. She has a lot in her kit. I'm going to show two different builds today, a lifesteal build and a counter build. We'll talk about the skills first quickly, just so you guys are up to date on how she works. Her skill 3 gives her an attack buff for 3 turns. She then AoEs the enemy team and decreases their hit chance for 2 turns, and then it gives her a CR boost of 50%. And that's super strong. This CR boost allows her to lap back around and take advantage of her skill 1 and 2, which are kind of the core of her kit. So her skill 2 is a passive, and when somebody dies, it gives her demon mode for 2 turns. It also dispels all buffs before it does that. And when she has demon mode, she is immune to debuffs. She ignores ER when attacking, and demon mode cannot be dispelled, so this is the same as Mind's Eye with Alencia. Once she gets it, can't get rid of it. Differently though, Alencia, if she has Unbuffable on, will not get Mind's Eye. Rem though has this dispels all debuffs from the caster when somebody dies, so that will not prevent Rem from getting demon mode because she'll dispel the Unbuffable. In addition to this demon mode thing, she has a baked-in Elbrus into her kit. She has a 20% chance to counterattack when an ally is attacked, except for her. And when this happens, it prioritizes using this different skill, Iron Strike. And Iron Strike attacks all enemies, so it's an AoE ability. So when she Elbruses, she AoEs, and it decreases their buff durations by 1 turn and makes them unhealable. So if she has demon mode, this just will happen because it's not going to get resisted, right? So that's pretty strong. Her skill 1 is a 50% chance to defense break, and then when she has demon mode, she gets a second attack with the same skill. So this is pretty absurd because she can attack with the first one, defense break, attack a second time, and then, she's attacking into that defense break, so it just does a, really high damage. One thing to note about her interactions here, if you read this skill, it would almost sound like Counterset would make Iron Strike proc, but that is not the case. If you use Counterset on her and they attack her, she will not counter with Iron Strike, she will just counter with a basic skill 1. However, she has Demon Mode, it will go twice, I believe. Her imprint concentration is crit chance, which is pretty absurd, and so I triple S'd her. This is the best value, imprint you can have in the game. It's the most rolls worth of stats, so nice to be able to take advantage of that if you can. So let's talk about her 2 different builds. She's on Counterset gear right now. When she's on Counterset, she uses Sigurd, but I put on this artifact here. It's her artifact, so that I could show you the Lifesteal Stats, and then I'll switch it over to Sigurd. Because I think do they have the same stat line here? They might, actually. 273 attack and 416 health. Yeah, they do. They have the same, so it doesn't really matter. So that was silly. But we can still show what this artifact does. So this increases her crit chance by 15%. This 15% does not show up in the stat line on the left here. When somebody dies, it increases her combat readiness by 24%. So that synergizes with her skill 3. If she happens to kill someone with it, she's going to get a, what is that, a 74% CR boost, so practically about to take a second turn there. So this artifact is really good for aggressive, teams. If you're going to play more defensively, and you're on Counterset, you want Sigurd, obviously, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a second. So let's show the Lifesteal stats here. You can see the counter stats on the left. We'll talk about that once we do the Lifesteal stuff. So I can she was using this sword, and I'll flash over this gear again after we get it all equipped. She was using this helm, this neck, it was this ring, and then her chest and her boots were immunity set. It was this chest. Hellraid immunity pieces can roll really high, so it's nice if you're able to take advantage of that. And it was, I believe, yeah, these boots. Okay, so these were the stats on the Lifesteal set. You can note that her speed is actually pretty good here. She's sitting at about 85% crit because that artifact would finish it off to 100%. The thing I did not like about this build, well, it was 2 things. One, the attack was on the low side, and I felt like this build just didn't do quite enough damage. Maybe I would sacrifice, I guess, a little speed for more attack, ideally. Could be nice. Maybe get her down to 180 speed and a bit more attack, I think would be good. Also, with this build, she was tanky at 15k HP and almost 1500 defense. However, she wasn't so tanky that the enemy couldn't finish her off You know, if they had like an attack buff Spectre Tenebria, she would just die. And the enemy's never punished for attacking into her because she's on Lifesteal set. So it felt like they could tunnel her pretty easily. That said, I think this build could be good and viable in an aggressive setup where you're able to take advantage of that and use her, you know, as a strong unit that is also kind of has like finishing potential, because, you know, you kill someone early and then Rem has demon mode and they just get like really punished for trying to finish off your squishy targets, right, if she procs Ironside and stuff. So I think the possibilities with this build are definitely there. It just wasn't really my playstyle. So here we can see the counter stats on the left, and I'll quickly mouse over. This is the gear for Lifesteal, and then we'll go over the counter stuff. So I think most people are running the counter set build with Sigurd's Scythe. The idea there is that Sigurd's Scythe, you know, heals her back up. It also gives some more attack, which is nice when she gets below 50% health. And they also run her at basically base speed to give her pretty absurd damage and tankiness. And she almost works as an SSB in this case, but I think she functions a little differently than SSB in that she, I think, more effectively counters units like Carrot and stuff. You know, the demon mode, I think, gives her the ability to kind of execute, where SSB doesn't have that. So this gear, I think, all rolled really well. With these boots are kind of trash, though. They just rolled into flat attack a bunch, which is pretty unfortunate. So this build could be better with better boots. I think the gear score on these boots is like below 60, so not ideal. But you can get an idea of like what stats are possible on her. Add a couple more rolls into whatever you want for like really good boots here. And that's what you would get. So probably just either more into defense, because I think her damage is pretty good. But yeah, so I think Rem right now fulfills on this counter set a role similar to SSB. The advantages are she has that execute potential with demon mode and her skill 1, right, hitting into defense break. And also another thing is that she doesn't have as many hard counters as SSB does, so it's a little easier to pick her. Right now it is a little difficult to test Rem because everyone is trying to pick her super early. And I don't think she's a hero that you generally want to pick super early. I think that she's someone that you're going to pick more in like the 3 to 5 range. But everyone wants to play with her, and so she's getting snapped up right away, and it's kind of, you know, hard to work around that. It's, I think, shifting the meta a bit just because people want to play with the new units. You know, SSB you can't take until the very end, right, because of her counters. Rem does have some counters like Green Violet, for example, so you can't take her first. But that's Rem. Let's take a look at some gameplay. Okay, so this first game is going to be a Lifesteal Rem, and then the rest of them will be counter. I'm pre-banning Tea Time Tenebria here. No particular reason why. I figured, you know, she's just a fairly strong opener that could shut me down, and I didn't want to deal with it. The opponent takes Maid Chloe, and my ultimate objective here is to draft Rem. You know, because I'm testing her. I'm also testing out Amelia at the same time. I was recording all these videos around, you know, the same time when the heroes first came out, so I was just trying to pick them early, you know, and utilize them. So against Maid Chloe, I think that Landy is a strong option, and then Amelia is really nice with Landy. You get a CR boost into Landy's CR boost, which is really strong. You give Landy attack buff. You know, all these things synergize really well together. And Landy is super strong against Maid because Maid puts up all those buffs, and so Landy can just go ham. The opponent takes Carrot. I take Carmen. I think I really need to... Well, I need to debate if I want to raise my Carmen speed or not. She's pretty slow right now, and Landy does push her up, but I think Carmen's a little too slow to take the turn after Landy typically. So I could raise Carmen's speed to, you know, like 200 or 210 or something, and then if I have Amelia, I can push Landy, and then Carmen will definitely take the next turn. So it's something to think about. I take Rem here because the opponent has taken Carrot, and I think this is ideally how I would like to draft Rem, in this 3 to 5 slot when the opponent has taken constant AoE abilities, right? So Carrot, if Carrot wants to do anything, she has to AoE. And so Rem is a really strong counter into that. For this reason, I think that Carrot is no longer a super viable first pick like she used to be, you know, prior to these new limited units coming out. Carrot used to be super safe as a first pick. You got a book, you had a strong DPS, you could, you know, then react to your opponent and build the rest of your team around. But right now, Rem is a pretty hard counter to that, so I guess Carrot is still good, but you have to pick her a little more carefully now, which is, I think, a good place for Carrot to be. It remains to be seen how oppressive Rem is going to be. So he bans out my ML Haste because he has Maid, And I ban out Politis because I have both Amelia and Carmen. I have a lot of these, turn cycling, like non-attack abilities, and I think Politis would just wreck me. And I figured, I'm just going to have to tank the RB damage. And that's okay because I have Carmen. So she's providing my team a lot of mitigation. And I have Amelia, who has a pretty decent amount of burst healing here, so we should be okay. So I'm going to boost up Landy. And then Landy can skill 3, and this is kind of the combo I showed off in my previous video. So this Rem is again Lifesteal, so she is zooming. She's up here towards the top. Don't really have to worry about Sage Ball since, we have all those other buffs. And Rem gets the turn here. So this is what I really like about this faster build, is that you get pushed up to the front, and so it lets you skill 3 early. And you get a lot of value in that because it lets you get up attack buff for 1, and 2, when someone dies and you have demon mode, you've already used your skill 3, so you don't need to worry about using it to get attack buff. It feels super bad to use skill 3 when you use demon mode because you only get 2 turns of demon mode, and to waste one of those putting your skill 3 up, it just seems pretty bad. So here you can see we have invincibility ourselves with Carmen, and RB has some AoE damage here, but he doesn't really want to use it. We counterattack anyways, and huge attack from Rem there. And look at, she's almost already taking a turn again because of her own artifact, right? And now she counters again. Look at all this damage. Ba-bam. So pretty good spot for us. We don't even need to use Amelia's skill 3 here. We can just S1 the RB. And it's pretty over. Like, Rem has decimated them. So that's game 1. Okay, so this next game, this is a counter set build game, and the rest of them will be counter set. Against the man himself, Suck. I know he plays pretty aggressively, but I actually haven't played against him that often. He pre-bans FCC, so that does indicate he's going aggressive to me. He first picks Carrot, I assume, for a book holder, and I take Rem here because he's taking Carrot, and I think Rem counters Carrot pretty well. Especially that counter set version is pretty toxic. I take Maid Chloe here. She's a very strong sustain type unit. There's a bit of overlap with Maid Chloe and Rem, and they both, give attack buff. But honestly, I think it's okay because counterset Rem just never takes her first turn. So it's nice to be able to give her attack buff from the beginning so she has it when she gets demon mode, and then you don't have to worry about using skill 3. And you can just use it later in the match if you want to get some extra AoE damage. So he takes Spectre Tenebria here and Blood Moon Haste. I think these are both really good picks because Spectre Tenebria can't be countered on her skill 1, and it's a pretty good answer to Rem. You have to be careful though because other units can proc that Ironside counter, and if you get unhealable on Spectre Tenebria, then it can be pretty tough to keep her alive. Blood Moon Haste obviously very strong against Maid Chloe. I take Carmen. I'm just going to try to tank it out. And Carmen provides quite a bit of mitigation with her passive, Adamant Shield, and also Aureus. Then I take Briarwitch Aceria. I think Briarwitch is good here because he's going very aggressive, and Briarwitch will be able to do not only a decent amount of damage, but also that attack down can really mitigate the amount of damage coming from his side and give me time to kind of heal back up after all of his skill 3s and stabilize. He takes Basar, which is another good pick since I don't think I can afford to ban it here. And it will push my team back, and he's going to take a good amount of turns before I even get to respond. So I just kind of have to survive. Strays is difficult for me to handle because I don't have any speed units right now, and if I pick one, he can just ban it. So I feel like I have to ban Strays, since he can just either ban my Carmen or my Maid, and then I'm in a tough spot because Strays is just going to kill the other one. I take Acid for the force ban. I feel like he has to ban Acid because then I can just shut down Strays. Although it's a bit of a gamble here because he could assume that I'm going to let Strays through. I think taking Acid into Basar could also be okay. I don't know if his Basar is on immunity, and I think my Acid might be able to kill it if it's squishy enough, so I felt like he was going to ban the Acid. His Basar is only 9k HP, so my Acid definitely would have killed. Now, unfortunately, though, he has a ton of books, and he has Spectre, and he has Carrot, so we basically just have to tank this down. This pushes back. We get a Ironside counter from Rem here, which is nice. So there's the Unhealable Inspector, which is good. Here goes Carrot. He doesn't have attack buff, which is, I guess, a plus for us. Rem procs again. So this counter build Rem is a little RNG, right? If you don't proc all these counters, then not much is happening. So it's a little, you know, pick and pray. But in the right setups, you can force the game to go long enough that I think you're gonna get counters most of the time. And statistically, you'll have a pretty decent win rate. So here he is going into the Rem, which is, I think, probably the smart choice. He doesn't have any burns on Briar Witch, though, so she'll take a turn right now. Goes into the Rem again. Looks like he's going to try to kill her. But she is surviving. So he has a skill 3.
Kiss my feet.
So if Rem lives here, it's basically by the grace of Carmen, since she's getting that double mitigation, and she just barely lives. And so now my maid can go. I can cleanse away some of the stuff. Rem is still stunned, but if I get a kill with Briar Witch here, which I should be able to because his team is squishy, it'll cleanse and activate Demon Mode. And yes, we do get a kill, so Demon Mode is activated. Importantly, if Rem dies with Demon Mode and comes back because of like Maid Chloe res, she does not have Demon Mode anymore. So luckily I live, and now I can put up Invulnerability with Carmen, or Invincibility, whatever we call it. And now I'm set up, since he can't do anything with ML Haste here. Everyone on my team has Invincibility, and I can now just slowly pick off his team. So that's that game. Okay, another game with counter Rem. This one is a little bit atypical. I think at this point in my testing, I had played a ton of games trying to get Rem, and I kept failing because people would pick her before me. People were picking her really early, so I just raged and got first pick and then pre-banned Green Violet and first picked her. I was like, I'm making this video, this is happening. So in response to this, the opponent takes Landy first pick and Blue Crow. I think that Landy is a good option into Rem in this current meta because Landy's skill 3 has, you know, cannot be countered in it, and so you're able to put out a good amount of pressure without having to worry about Rem countering. There are other good options as well. I think if you're going aggressive, then Pavel is a pretty good option because he's green. His skill 2 also has that cannot be countered clause to it, and his skill 3 hits like a Mack truck, so you can usually just delete her, you know, without suffering any counters at all. So he's taking Blue Crow here. And I wanted to kind of try Amelia as well, and I thought against Landy, I guess my options would, you know, I could take like Basar, but I kind of want to try Bisaria here because she's around 200 speed and has good damage. So with Amelia, I can really boost her up and probably take first turn with her and really cripple that Landy and then not have to worry about, you know, banning her. The opponent could take Basar, which would be annoying for me. I'd have to speed contest it or just ban it or something. And interestingly takes MLken and then Last Rider Crow. MLken is interesting because, you know, Bisaria is AoE, I guess. But I think Rem could probably kill him, since once she gets Demon Mode, you know, she can just go in with the 1-2 with Defense Break, potentially, but maybe if the Ken hits hard enough, he can just kill her. LRK, I think, is a bit of an int here because I have Bisaria already. He has no cleansers, and so I feel like Bisaria just wrecks him. So the responsible thing to do here would be to take Spectre Tenebria, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to take Strays, because I thought that could be fun. He has no speed threats at the moment, and so my Strays is 250 speed, so if he takes a speed threat last, I can just ban it. And I take ML Queric here also for fun. I think Queric could be good since he has a few AoEs with LRK and Landy, so if he skill 3s with LRK, my Kawazu can get boosted up and then can just one-shot the ML Ken. So I like drafting ML Kawazu when I can. He's a fun hero. He's just a little hard to use. The opponent takes Spectre, which I kind of have to ban. I don't have enough AoE reach to really deal with her. So we have no mitigation, which is a bit of a problem, but I think we take turn 1 with Amelia, and Viseria should cripple the opponent pretty badly. And then we have ML Queric for ML Ken, and if that doesn't work out, then I guess we have Rem, probably. I think the big problem here is actually Blue Crow, since we can't hide from him, and he can horse one of my units. So if he's able to horse away one of my, crucial answers at the right time, then I could be in a situation where I have, no more ways to deal with ML Ken, or, I have no more ways to deal with Landy or something like that, depending on how this went. He did not resist, though, on Viseria, or at least with Landy, which was the important one. So she's vulnerable. He horses here, and I think this was a misplay, because maybe he thought my ML Queric was squishy, but he's not. He's pretty thick, so he's not able to take him out. Unfortunately, I do not have Vigor, and I don't really have much effectiveness, so I don't want to use ML Queric's skill 3 just yet. We can skill 3 with Amelia here and heal him back up, so that's a pretty decent heal. But thankfully now we don't have to worry about the Blue Crow skill 3, that's off the table. We do have to worry about Queric living. So there's the bike, and that actually does a fair bit of damage. Our ML Queric procs his skill 2, and now ML Ken gets to take his skill 3, so this is buff now, so it actually does damage, but not that much. I think Rem is still probably decent into ML Ken, just because a lot of her damage comes from counterattacks, and Ken does not counter counters, right? He only counters when you actually attack him. So that attack down from Viseria is doing huge work, and our ML Queric is still alive. We get pushed back, though, but that's okay, because now Amelia can push him right back up.
It hurts.
And maybe Soul Burning was a waste, because he's probably dead anyways, despite this heal. And I forgot that LRK was on Hillag, so that might have been a little bit of an int, but I didn't think that ML Queric would die to one LRK S1, so... Okay, there we dispel the bust from ML Ken. He counters and kills our Queric, but he did his job. The burns detonate. Goodbye, Ken. And now it's Rem and Amelia against the world. So this is what I'm talking about, how I don't have attack up on my Rem. And, obviously I would like that, but I want to take advantage of Demon Mode here. So I do that. I could have skill 3'd, but I wanted to make sure I killed the Landy, since she no longer had attack down, and she was, potentially going into stealth if I didn't get rid of her. So here you can see our Sigurd Scythe procs, and this sustain is going to be really important to keeping us alive. We're able to push up our Rem here, who still has Demon Mode, and we have Sigurd Scythe, so we're going to hit pretty hard here. I just go into Crow, hoping for the defense break, but we don't get it. Blue Crow doesn't have his horse, so I don't really have to worry about that. We can heal up with Amelia here. We don't have Demon Mode anymore, but it's honestly okay. One more turn on that Crow horse, but I think we can attack, and we get a counterattack anyways. So hitting for a good amount. Can just boost up Rem again with a heal. And that should be game for this one. Okay, so this is actually a placement match in the new season. My opponent pre-bans Tea Time Tenebria. And then first picks Maid Chloe, so a man after my own heart. Against Maid Chloe now, I think you can take Landy fairly early, since Carrot is no longer the Omega uncounterable threat, that she used to be. Also, as an aside, Green Violet is another strong option into Rem, if you have him. Maybe I'll do a Green Violet video next. He's kind of a fun unit to meme around with. Not sure how consistent he is, but he definitely seems to shut down units like Rem and other blue threats, like I guess SSB. I take Carmen here. I debated about taking FCC, but we're still really early in the draft, and the opponent does have an attack buff, so he's flashing LQC here even. So if I had taken FCC and he had taken LQC, it could have been a problem. LQC is a bit in a weird spot. It feels like she just doesn't do enough right now.
I'm bored.
So we'll see. Yeah, I just haven't really been picking her. The opponent also takes Spectre Tenebria, so that is a target we're going to have to deal with, probably with more AoE damage. So against Maid, most people speed tune their Maid Chloe's to be around like 220 to 250, somewhere in there, because they want her to go before their attack, or their DPS unit, so that she can put up attack buff. And for that reason, a Bisaria speed tuned around 200 is, I think, actually really strong right now in the meta. Since Bisaria does a ton of damage, those debuffs are absolutely crippling, and you can generate a tremendous amount of momentum for your team. ML Haste is also really good against Maid Chloe, so I take ML Haste here.
Why not do Carrot there? Because she had immunity. How do I lose?
It hurts.
And then the Bisaria. The opponent takes Crow, so he has quite a bit of mitigation there with the Little Queen Charlotte and the Crow. So he has Adamant and Aureus, and then he has Spectre Tenebra hiding behind all of it.
You can't kill my Rem because I'm actually bruiser on her.
So we do have the option of just banning the Spectre. There's nothing here, I think, that is really a force ban for us. Crow could be a little bit annoying. If our Landy pops out a Guiding Light and then just gets Crowhorsed, that would be bad. Politis is a tad annoying because we have Carmen, but the opponent does not have a ton of damage, so I don't think we're going to be pressured to using Carmen's skill 3 here, unless the circumstances are really dire. And that's really the only thing that can activate Politis right now. So I don't think I have to ban Politis, so I think we can afford to just ban Spectre. And since we can afford to ban Spectre, that means we can play Rem. I don't know how great Rem is here, to be honest. The opponent bans out the Landy, so we're a little bit short on damage. But if we can get snowballing with ML Haste, we should be fine. Yeah, I think, Rem is probably not the greatest here. The opponent has Crow to just delete her, and I guess she does kill Politis pretty easily. And can be annoying to LQC. We get a little wave from the opponent there, so we, wave back. Or at least we try to, but the skill animation blocks us. We have no attack buff. The opponent holds the skill 3 on Maid. I'm just going to use my skill 3 now on Bisaria, because if Bisaria doesn't go back into Guiding Light, then she can just get controlled and, won't get her skill 3 off anyways. We regrettably do not strip the LQC. We get resisted. So unlucky there. I'm about to skill 3 Politis here, and then I debate about doing LQC, but I want to do Politis, and then I run out of time. And so the computer chooses for me, and I go into LQC, so that's a misplay. Should have gone into Politis just to kill her, because then if Chloe uses her skill 3, she just gets hosed, since it resets haste. No attack buff on LQC means she's not going to do anything to haste. We don't really have to worry about her.
This is so annoying. Okay.
Debate about skill 3 in here with Carmen, but it would proc Politis, which could be okay since we have Rem, so it might, get some mileage out of that. But actually, no, I guess that's an extra attack with Politis, so that's not really going to do anything for us. The opponent skill 1s into Briar Witch and stuns her, so this is what I'm talking about. If we didn't skill 3 earlier, we may not have just had an opportunity to do it ever again. The opponent horses here. I think this is another early horse, but I guess their reasoning is they're just desperately trying to finish off ML Haste. And so we get a nice counter from Rem there. Which is actually pretty important because now Politis has 3 debuffs, so Maid might not dispel the unbuffable, although it rearranges itself, so now she will. I still don't understand that interaction, by the way. If anyone can explain why the debuffs rearrange themselves for no apparent reason at different times. Seems totally crazy to me. But there you can see, because the debuff shuffled around, it always gets rid of the left two, that's consistent. But I don't know why it shuffles them. Anyways, so we get our turn with Rem. We can put up attack buff now, and that triggers haste. And now we have demon mode. So I think we have effectively snowballed at this point, since, you know, many of the units on the opponent's side are pretty low. And even though our team is slow, I don't think they can stop, you know, our momentum train now. Could skill 3 here with Carmen, but there's honestly no point. We're all really healthy, and we're not under any threat. The opponent took a pretty tanky team, but it's a team that doesn't really do damage, especially without attack buff. Here we can just go into LQC. I mean, honestly, I guess we could have just gone into Politis there and then killed LQC next. Doesn't really matter. We can kill Politis now. So now we have attack buff on Rem with demon mode, and 2 full turns of demon mode no less, so we can get some really solid damage here. This is something else that I kind of like about the base speed counterset build compared to Lifesteal. The Lifesteal build, you're moving so fast, you cycled out of demon mode really quickly, and that is a plus if you're going aggressive, right? You get to take advantage of those turns. But if you're playing more defensively, you want to sit back here and allow the opponent to give you opportunities to counter with Ironside.
I don't know.
Or even just to counter right with Demon Mode, because you get that ignore ER effect, and it's very strong. So here we go with haste again. This is really like what you're trying to do when you counter Chloe with haste, is you just get this momentum domino. Like you kill one, it resets his cooldown. You kill another, it resets his cooldown.
So that is.
So it's pretty easy to achieve if the opponent picks squishy units. Here you can see the damage, which is I think pretty good with attack buff. You know, she has like 300 crit damage and quite a lot of attack with attack buff, so she's going to hit hard.
Average RNG, I would have won.
The match is essentially over at this case, or in this case. Crow's going down. If Chloe even gets back to her skill 3, which I don't think she will, our haste resets himself, but it won't even matter because we have skill 3 available. So we finish it off, and that's going to be game. So let me know in the comments below what you think and how you are going to build Rem. That's all for now. Later.